The massive hall buzzed with alien voices speaking in dozens of languages. Captain Marcus Reed stood at the back of the crowd, his weathered hands resting on his belt as he watched the spectacle unfold. The auction house on Corveth Prime was legendary across the galaxy, a place where lives were bought and sold like cargo. Today, the air thick with smoke from various alien breathing apparatus. Hundreds of creatures gathered to bid on prisoners of war Marcus had come here looking for. Skilled workers, maybe a navigator or engineer for his cargo ship. He was not like the other buyers surrounding him, where alien nobles wore golden robes and warlords displayed their battle scars proudly. Marcus dressed simply in a brown leather jacket and worn boots. His human features made him stand out, earning suspicious glances from scaled reptilians and crystalline beings with glowing eyes. On the raised platform, the auctioneer waved his multiple arms dramatically. Next, we have a warrior from the siege of Nexus 7. Look at those muscles, those claws. It's perfect for mining operations or gladiator rings. The crowd roared with excitement as bids flew back and forth. The creature, a massive being with blue skin and tusks, was sold for 800 credits in minutes. One by one, the valuable prisoners disappeared. Skilled pilots, experienced soldiers, trained technicians, all found eager buyers. The crowd grew smaller as successful bidders left with their new property. Marcus watched it all with growing discomfort. He had seen slavery before in his travels, but something about this place felt particularly cold. Then he saw her. At the far end of the platform sat a small figure, so tiny compared to the others that she seemed like a child. Her pale pink skin was marked with bruises, and her large dark eyes stared at the floor. She wore nothing but dirty rags, her thin frame shaking slightly. The heavy chains around her wrists looked comically oversized, as if they could slide off. Her delicate bones. The auctioneer finally reached her, his voice losing its enthusiasm. And finally, we have this specimen, young female of the Villani species. Weak constitution, no particular skills, but perhaps suitable for simple domestic tasks. He barely looked at her as he spoke. We'll start the bidding at 50 credits. Silence filled the hall. Marcus could hear alien voices murmuring dismissively. Worthless, someone hissed. She'll die within a week, another added with cruel laughter. The girl's shoulders trembled, but she kept her eyes down, as if trying to make herself invisible. The auctioneer's voice grew desperate. 30 credits, then. Surely someone has use for domestic help. Still nothing. The remaining buyers shook. Their heads are turned away entirely. 20 credits. Final offer. Marcus found himself stepping forward before he fully realized what he was doing. His voice cut clear across the hall. I'll take her. Every head turned toward him. The girl finally looked up, her wide eyes meeting his for just a moment before, darting away again, spread through the crowd like wildfire. The proud Zellic trader near him snorted with amusement. The human has lost his mind. What use is that fragile thing? But Marcus ignored them all. He'd seen something in those brief seconds when their eyes met. Fear, yes, but also intelligence. Despite her beaten appearance, despite the way everyone dismissed her, there was life in those dark eyes, something worth saving. The auctioneer, shocked but pleased to finally make a sale, quickly closed the deal. Sold to the human for 20 credits. The chains were unlocked, and the girl stumbled as she tried to stand on unsteady legs. Marcus moved forward, offering his hand to steady her. She flinched away at first, clearly expecting violence. But when he simply waited patiently, palm extended, she slowly reached out with trembling fingers. Her hand felt impossibly small in his, delicate as glass. Easy, Marcus said softly, his voice gentle. You're safe now. Unexpected kindness. The girl, who Marcus learned was called Xena, followed him through the crowded corridors of Corvath Prime. With hesitant steps, her bare feet made no sound on the metal floor, and she kept glancing around nervously as if expecting someone to snatch her away. Marcus noticed how she automatically moved to walk behind him. Head down in the submissive posture of a trained slave, his ship, the Wanderer, waited in docking bay 7. It was not impressive by galactic standards, just a modest cargo vessel with scorched hull plating and mismatched repair patches. But it was home, and more importantly, it represented freedom from the suffocating atmosphere of the slave market. Once aboard, Marcus sealed the airlock and turned to find Xena standing frozen near the entrance, unsure what was expected of her. In the ship's lighting, he could see her injuries more clearly. Purple bruises covered her arms, and there were old scars on her wrists from chains worn too long. "Are you hungry?" Marcus asked, moving toward the small galley. Xena's stomach answered for her with a loud rumble, and she pressed her hands against it in embarrassment. Marcus pretended not to notice as he heated up some preserved meat and bread. He placed the food on the table and gestured for her to sit. Xena approached cautiously as if it might be a trap. She had learned not to trust kindness from masters. But the rich smell of real food, not the nutrient paste she was used to, made her mouth water. "Go ahead," Marcus encouraged, settling into his own chair across from her. "Eat as much as you want." Xena took a small bite, then another, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. When he made no move to stop her or demand anything in return, she began eating with desperate hunger. Marcus watched sadly as she devoured the meal, realizing she probably had not had proper food in weeks or months. While she ate, he'd prepared the small spare cabin next to his quarters. It was barely larger than a storage closet, but it had a real bed with clean sheets and a small porthole looking out into space. When Xena finished eating, he showed her to the room. "This is yours," he said simply. "The door locks from the inside. No one will disturb you here." Xena stared at the bed as if she had never seen one before. Tears began forming in her dark eyes. In all her years of slavery, she had never had privacy, never had a space that belonged to her alone. She reached out to touch the soft blanket, then pulled her hand back as if she did not deserve such comfort. Marcus understood her hesitation. "It's okay," he said gently. "Rest now. We'll talk more tomorrow." He started to leave, but paused when he heard her whisper something in her native language. Though he did not understand the words, her tone was unmistakable. She was thanking him. That night, as the Wanderer traveled through hyperspace toward Marcus's next trading destination, he lay awake thinking about his new passenger. He had not planned to buy anyone at the auction, certainly not a fragile alien girl who would require care and protection. His life was simpler when he traveled alone, but something about Xena's situation had struck him deeply. Maybe it was the way every other being in that hall had looked at her as worthless, or maybe it was the quiet dignity she maintained even in her suffering. Whatever the reason, Marcus knew he had made the right choice. Through the thin walls, he could hear soft sounds from Xena's room. She was crying, but not from sadness. These were tears of relief, the sound of someone who had forgotten what safety felt like and was slowly beginning to remember, for the first time in years. Marcus Reed was no longer alone in the vast emptiness of space. And somehow, despite all the complications it would bring, that felt exactly right. 3 weeks into their journey together, Marcus began to understand that he had not rescued just any ordinary slave. Despite her fragile appearance, Xena possessed a quick mind and natural curiosity that constantly surprised him. She learned basic standard Galactic in just days, picking up his language with remarkable speed. "The blue crystals," she said one morning, pointing to a mineral sample in his cargo hold, "they sing when you heat them. My people use them for communication across great distances." Her voice was soft but clear, and Marcus realized this was the longest sentence she had spoken since coming aboard. He had been struggling to identify the unusual crystals for weeks, and her simple observation solved the puzzle instantly. They were resonance stones, valuable to species that used harmonic communication. What he had thought was worthless rock would fetch a good price on Harmony Station. "How did you know that?" Marcus asked, studying her with new respect. Xena looked down shyly. "Before the war, before I was captured, I studied such things. My people were scholars, keepers of knowledge." She paused, pain flickering across her delicate features. "But that life is gone now." Marcus felt his heart clench. He was beginning to understand that Xena's people, the Villani, had been victims of genocide rather than simple conquest. She was not just a former slave. She was possibly one of the last of her kind. Their next stop was the trading post at Meridian 4, a rough frontier settlement where Marcus usually sold mining equipment and supplies. As they walked through the crowded marketplace, he noticed how Xena stayed close to his side, her eyes darting nervously at the various alien species around them. But when they reached the booth of Grix, the tentacled, notoriously difficult trader known for cheating humans, something unexpected happened. Xena stepped forward and spoke to the alien merchant in perfect Grixian, a complex language involving both sounds and color changes. Marcus watched in amazement as Xena negotiated a price for his goods that was 3 times what he usually received. The alien merchant's tentacles shifted through several colors, indicating respect and surprise, before he agreed to her terms. "How many languages do you speak?" Marcus asked later, as they loaded credits onto his ship. "Most of the major ones," Xena replied matter-of-factly, "and several that are nearly extinct. My people believe that to truly understand others, you must speak with them in their own words." That evening, as they sat in the ship's small common area sharing dinner, Marcus found himself really looking at Xena for the first time. Her bruises had faded, and proper food had brought color back to her pale skin. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, with large dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom and delicate features that made her appear almost ethereal. "Why did you choose me?" she asked suddenly, interrupting his thoughts. "At the auction you could have bought anyone. Why someone they called worthless?" Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to be overlooked. Humans are not the strongest species, or the smartest, or the most advanced. We survive because we see value where others see nothing." Xena smiled for the first time since he had known her, and the transformation was breathtaking. Face lit up, erasing years of pain and fear in an instant. "I think," she said softly, "that humans are wiser than they appear." As the weeks passed, their partnership grew stronger. Xena's knowledge of alien cultures and languages proved invaluable in Marcus's trading business. But more than that, her presence brought warmth and companionship to his previously lonely existence. They developed routines together, morning meals where she would teach him phrases in various alien tongues, evenings when he would tell her stories of the human colony worlds he had visited, quiet moments between hyperspace jumps when they would sit side by side, looking out at the stars. Marcus found himself looking forward to these simple pleasures more than any profitable trade deal. And sometimes, when Xena would accidentally brush his hand while reaching for something, or when she would laugh at one of his stories, he felt something deeper stirring in his chest. Something that had nothing to do with rescue or duty, and everything to do with the growing connection between 2 lonely souls who had found each other across the vastness of space. Love across the stars. 2 months after leaving Corveth Prime, the Wanderer developed engine trouble near the remote planet Sanctuary 7. Marcus managed to land in a clearing beside a crystalline forest, the ship's systems failing just as they touched down. Emergency repairs would take at least 3 days, leaving them stranded on the uninhabited world. "I'm sorry," Marcus said as he surveyed the damaged engine components. "This wasn't part of the plan." Xena stood at the ship's open ramp, breathing deeply of the clean air. Twin suns cast everything in a golden glow, and the crystal trees chimed softly in the gentle breeze. "It's beautiful here," she said with wonder. "Like the stories my grandmother used to tell about paradise worlds." They set up a temporary camp outside the ship, Marcus working on repairs while Xena explored their surroundings. She discovered that the crystal formations produced pure water and that several types of edible fruits grew in abundance. For the first time since her capture, she seemed truly at peace. On their second evening, they sat beside a small fire Marcus had built, sharing a meal of the local fruits Xena had gathered. The alien sunset painted the sky in shades of purple and gold, and the crystal trees sang their haunting melody in the wind. "Tell me about your home," Marcus said softly, "before the war." Xena was quiet for a long moment, her eyes reflecting. "The firelight. We lived in great libraries built into living trees. Knowledge was our greatest treasure. Children learned to read before they could walk properly." Her voice grew sad. "My parents were historians. They died protecting our archives when the Corvani forces attacked. Without thinking, Marcus reached out and took her small hand in his. I'm sorry. She looked down at their joined hands, her breath catching slightly. You have given me more kindness in 2 months than I received in 5 years of slavery. Why? Marcus felt his heart racing. The question he had been avoiding for weeks hung in the air between them. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being someone I rescued and became someone I care about. He trailed off, suddenly aware of how different they were. She was small and delicate, with pale pink skin and features that seemed carved from starlight. He was human, rough around the edges, with calloused hands and scars from years of dangerous trading runs. What right did he have to feel this way about her? But Xena surprised him by turning her hand palm up, interlacing their fingers. Someone you what? She whispered. Someone I love, Marcus finished, his voice barely audible. The admission hung between them like a bridge across an impossible distance. Xena's dark eyes searched his face, and he saw his own emotions reflected there. Wonder, fear, and something deeper that made his chest tight. My people have a saying, she said softly. Love is not about similarity of form, but harmony of spirit. She moved closer to him beside the fire. I feel that harmony with you, Marcus Reed. When she reached up to touch his cheek with her delicate fingers, Marcus felt his world shift. He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, but instead she met him halfway. Their lips touched gently, a kiss that was soft and sweet and perfect, despite the differences between their species. They spent that night wrapped in each other's arms under the alien stars, sharing whispered words and gentle caresses. Marcus marveled at how perfectly Xena fit against him, as if they were 2 pieces of a puzzle finding their place at last. She traced the scars on his chest with wondering fingers while he stroked her silky hair. I never believed I would feel safe enough to love someone, Xena murmured against his shoulder. You have given me back my heart. Marcus held her closer, breathing in her subtle alien scent that reminded him of flowers and starlight. You've given me something I didn't even know I was missing, the reason to look forward instead of just surviving. They made love slowly and tenderly as the crystal trees sang their lullaby around them. 2 beings from different worlds finding perfect unity in each other's arms. When morning came, they were no longer just traveling companions or former master and slave. They were partners in the truest sense, bound by love that transcended species and circumstance. As Marcus worked to repair the engines that final day, Xena helped him with tools and components, their movements synchronized like a dance they'd been practicing their whole lives. The Wanderer would fly again soon, but everything had changed. They were no longer running from something, but flying toward a future they would build together. Their peaceful existence was shattered 3 weeks later when they arrived at New Geneva Station for supplies. As Marcus negotiated for engine parts, Xena waited aboard the ship as usual. But when he returned to the docking bay, he found Corvani's security forces surrounding the Wanderer. Captain Reed, their leader, a tall reptilian with golden scales, addressed him formally. I am Commander Voss. We have reports that you are harboring stolen property. Marcus's blood ran cold. I don't know what you mean. The Villani female you purchased. Her identification marks indicate she is not a common slave. Voss smiled coldly. She is Princess Xena of the former Villani Empire, worth considerable bounty to certain interested parties. Through the ship's porthole, Marcus could see Xena's terrified face. Security forces had already boarded his vessel, and she was trapped inside. Everything clicked into place. Her education, her knowledge of languages and cultures, the way she carried herself with unconscious dignity, even in chains. The sale was legal, Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady. I have documentation. Perhaps. But new evidence suggests the princess was kidnapped rather than legitimately captured in war. The Galactic Council is offering substantial rewards for the return of surviving Villani royalty. Yes. Gestured to his troops. She comes with us now. Marcus's hand moved instinctively toward the blaster at his hip, but he was outnumbered 20-1. Where are you taking her? That is not your concern. You will be compensated for your loss, of course. Through their communication link, Marcus heard Xena's voice.com, despite her fear. Marcus, don't fight them. I won't have you killed for my sake. But as the security forces began leading Xena away in fresh chains, Marcus saw red. This woman had taught him what love meant, had brought light into his dark existence, had shown him that even in a galaxy full of cruelty, there could be beauty and hope. He was not about to lose her to alien politics and greed. Wait, he called out. When Voss turned back, Marcus was holding a thermal detonator, his thumb hovering over the trigger. Let her go, Captain. Be reasonable. You cannot fight the entire Galactic Authority. Maybe not, Marcus replied grimly. But I can make sure this station becomes a debris field if anything happens to her. What followed was a tense standoff that lasted for hours. Marcus had barricaded himself and Xena in his ship, while station security surrounded them. The communications array. The word spread quickly that a human was defying the mighty Corvani Empire for love. Other traders began gathering in the docking bay. Some were curious, some were betting on the outcome, but others remembered deals Marcus had made with them. Fair treatment he had shown when other humans might have cheated them. Slowly, voices began calling for the security forces to stand. Down! Let the human keep his mate, rumbled Grix, the tentacled. He trades with honor. The Corvani have taken enough, added a Saurian merchant. Why should they have this too? Commander Voss found himself facing not just one stubborn human, but a growing crowd of alien traders who had decided to take Marcus's side. Station security was outnumbered. The political situation was becoming complicated. Finally, word came from the Galactic Council itself. In light of recent testimony about Corvani war crimes during the Villani genocide, Princess Xena was granted political asylum. She was free to choose her own fate. She chose Marcus. As the Wanderer lifted off from New Geneva Station, Xena sat in the co-pilot's chair where she belonged. No longer a rescued slave, but an equal partner in their shared adventure. Marcus reached over to take her hand as they jumped to hyperspace. So, Princess, he said with a grin. Any other secrets I should know about? Xena laughed, the sound filling their ship with joy. Just one. Love you, Marcus Reed, and nothing in this galaxy will ever change that. Together they flew toward the unknown, two hearts beating as one among the endless stars, proving that sometimes the most unlikely love stories become the greatest adventures of all.